All right. Super excited for our show today, our podcast. We have a very special guest, Miss Rachel Varga from the School of Radiance. And everybody out there, we're going to have that down below in our thing, but you need to go to her podcast, to her YouTube channel. She has got a lot of great information, an RN, a background in all different kinds of technologies. And Rachel, even though you're more organized with a really good bio. I know enough about the School of Radiance and what you're doing to be super excited. So, with that being said, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and let's get in and talk about the School of Radiance.
Thank you for having me, Sean. And it's great to connect with all of you here in the community who's really focused on looking great and feeling fantastic, because that's at the end of the day. I'm a humble human on a mission here to help as many of you as possible both look and feel your best. So I love what you're doing, Sean, with technologies to reduce inflammation, to speed up recovery, rejuvenation, regeneration. And from that, it really lays the foundation for reducing oxidative stress, aka reducing inflammation, because it's really inflammation and oxidative stress and toxins that age us. And then where I come in is, guidance and information on all that, which is why I love why you're doing med beds and technology. A lot of the tech I use as well daily. And then of course there's the skincare and the rejuvenation and all of that, and the radiance piece, which is really my passion and why I'm here.
I love that because, Rachel, you are the living, breathing example of radiance, beauty, skincare, all those wonderful things. And, there's a lot of people on the channel that are looking for, information on, tips. They're looking for technologies, and being the fact that you're still doing this in a medical setting as an RN, you're not only seeing like all the medical aspects of technology that are coming out, which are advancing fast, but then you've got all the holistic and all the other different things. And you've got an amazing library of data on your channel. I believe it's over 500 videos. So you've really put a lot of time, effort, research. And I know you go to a lot of the up and coming shows and you're very well versed on all the upcoming technologies. So, with that being said, for the average person that's out there that wants to look good, that wants to look radiant, um, first off, let me even back up a step. What is your definition of radiance?
My definition of radiance has evolved. And since working with clients in the clinic setting, offering rejuvenation as a double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist, which means I have my RN, and then I took a secondary board examination in the States to be certified in medical aesthetics. And I started to notice that a segment of my patients, typically aged 60 to 90, were just showing up differently. They were glowing differently. They'd come to see me in the clinic, they would sit down on the chair. They were just very coherent with their energy, with the way that they spoke. They were happy. And the interesting thing is, they'd come to see me, and sure, they'd have some signs of aging, like fine lines, wrinkles, sunspots or age spots, a little bit of sagging to the skin, typical signs of sun damage and aging. But they just had this different shine to them. And then I would do rejuvenation for them, and they would respond better. They would get a better response from the different non-surgical things that I would provide for them. So I started to study these individuals and then ask them questions about their lifestyle. What was their family life like? Did they have a faith? How did they eat? What did they do for fun? Were they living their passion? So I started to basically put together these common threads and trends in this group of people who I served for many years, and observed them and started to integrate some of the practices that they were doing, as well as the biohacking and longevity side of things, which is backed by research. I write research articles myself too on topics of rejuvenation and slowing aging. And then I came across an Ayurvedic text. And the definition of radiance in accordance with Ayurveda is very interesting. This was a big aha moment for me, because some people, they just might not have the typical today's standard of beauty, like looking like Hollywood celebrities. They just had this aura about them. They had this shine. They had this clarity and warmth and kindness and purpose. in their eyes, and they were just a pleasure to be around. They're very, what I would say, coherent individuals. And in Ayurveda, the radiant body is the 10th body. And we have our body, mind, spirit, energy as our first four bodies. So essentially, the radiant body, which is the 10th body, is the electromagnetic projection of the quality of your operating systems, your other different bodies, beyond body, mind, spirit, energy. It's essentially radiance is this electromagnetic projection of how your systems are operating into the world. So to me, that's very quite powerful. And that's not really something I can rejuvenate, but I can teach how to cultivate. And it's not for everybody because there are some deeper practices that are involved that go beyond just skincare and rejuvenation. It's really the mindset, it's the presence, it's how we carry ourselves in both the feminine and the masculine, how we engage with ourselves daily, how we talk to ourselves, and how we engage with others, and really how we stay grounded and essentially on our mission with what we're here to do. And that can look different for everybody. Something as simple as being a good person, acting out of integrity. When we act out of integrity, that's actually one of the key things that's going to build your confidence. And the more confident that we are, the more capable we are at actually building our community. And you've probably heard the saying, we're all stronger together. And actually, building your community is a key aspect to survival. So it's all very interesting how beauty and radiance can seem very superficial, but it actually addresses a deep-rooted need for us to be connected as humans.
I love that. And anytime you get into Vedic knowledge or Ayurveda, that is really like almost timeless wisdom. The Vedas, I believe, are some of the earliest scriptures that were written and, very, very, very complete and very whole with a lot of the information that comes out of it. So for the average person that's out there, basically what you're saying is that it starts with the internal, right? And having love, compassion, and maybe those types of things. And then from that, everything starts to radiate out. And then what about like, let's get into exercise, diet, and let's get into maybe some tips also that you can incorporate that also then start kind of filling in all the nooks and crannies for your third dimensional body and maybe even still for your spirit body.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on where each individual listener is here, some of you may be in your body and you're very attuned to how your body operates. And some of you, your head might be in the clouds a little bit, right? All of this cool technology that's around us, these different spiritual practices, esoteric practices, the body, mind, spirit, energy. We need to be grounded in all of those and balanced in all of those to truly be our most radiant versions. So when it comes to diet and exercise, it's absolutely key that we take care of our body. And I wrote a research article not too long ago. If you go on PubMed and type in my name, Rachel Varga, you'll find it. You do need a subscription to read some of these journals. They're not all open source, depends on the journal I published in, but you can at least read the abstract. And I wrote this paper titled Oxidative Stress Status and Its Impacts on Skin Aging to really actually provide a framework as to which sort of like health promoting biohacking technologies we should start with. And what I found is essentially we want to reduce oxidative stress in our toxic bucket, right? So oxidative stress status represents how many toxins you have in your toxic bucket. When the bucket tips over through physical or even non-physical and stress or emotional or energetic or spiritual types of things, we can experience more skin rashes, skin dryness, anxiety, weight gain, even weight loss. And there's essentially a couple key categories that contribute to our toxic bucket getting full. And we want to keep this bucket as empty as possible so that we're more resilient. And one of the key facets to being always radiant is being always ready, always resilient, to be always radiant. So there's this resiliency, there's this adaptability, and looking after our adrenals and keeping that oxidative stress status down. So the key areas that we can get exposure to toxins from are in air quality, water quality, lighting quality, electromagnetic frequencies or wireless cellular radiation, our food quality. Are you eating the right foods? Are you testing instead of guessing? How to support your body's DNA expression, which is the study of epigenetics. And we can hone the way that we eat to actually support our body's expression of our genes. And then we want to look at detoxing. And detoxing, very key things that a lot of us have exposure to of yeast, fungi, mold, heavy metals, and parasites. So people think, oh, I want to do a detox, but really you actually want to get this oxidative stress status or toxic bucket as empty as possible, and then look at detoxification. So it's a bit of a journey. And I was very happy to basically provide a framework as to which types of technologies can help empty this bucket first, and then add the fun things in, like other technologies to really elevate and upgrade and support further regeneration and rejuvenation, but we need to start with the foundations first. So when it comes to food, I suggest testing instead of guessing. I think the food elimination diet or following trendy diets isn't great, but there are a few key things that I've done in my life that have made a huge difference. I used to eat salads all day, every day, huge salad for lunch, huge salad for dinner, but I really wasn't getting my protein needs or essential amino acid needs. So I tweaked my nutrition to be about 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. That made a huge difference for me, and alternating the types of proteins that I was eating, drinking enough water. So for women, it's about 2 to 2 liters of purified water a day. For guys, it's about 3. If you're exercising, which you should be, it's a little bit more than that. And then other key nutrients that we want to have are things like I mentioned, protein, omegas. I'm a huge fan of creatine and really putting on as much muscle as possible to support our bones and all of that as we age. So looking at nutrition as fueling your body, and key carbohydrate sources that I like to have are things like honey and dates and rice and cauliflower. I really don't have a lot of potatoes, or I do have some sour bread, but I'm very conscious of the types of carbohydrates I eat and a lot of protein. And then I do think that because our foods are not as nutrient rich as they used to be, we do want to supplement with things like multivitamin and omegas. And I'm a huge fan of creatine, making sure we're getting lots of really good high quality single source salt mine salt, and those key minerals like magnesium and calcium and zinc, so that basically we look at food like nourishing our body, doing that first, fueling your body first, and then adding exercise. And in the patients that I've observed over the years, it's been a balance of the cardiovascular training, so a little bit of cardio, strength and conditioning, so lifting those heavy weights, and also stretching and flexibility. So yoga, Pilates, Qigong, those are all kind of key aspects, and really balancing those all out.
I love that. So when it comes to the protein, you said about a gram to a gram and a half per body weight,
Yeah, per pound of body weight.
per
It's
pound of
it's
body weight.
so it works out to about 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal.
Okay. So, are you familiar with the protein drinks now that are out there?
Yeah, actually, one of the things that I'll often do is in my coffee, put a scoop of collagen. So
Yeah.
I wrote a research paper for a UK journal on nutrition and the skin. So for visible changes in the skin, we want about 10 to 12 grams of protein, or sorry, collagen per day to see visible changes on the skin. And then I'll put a scoop of protein in my coffee, which is about 20 grams of protein. And protein quality does matter. So I often have protein from like beef bone marrow. That's one of my favorites. There's also whey and things like that too, but that's my favorite.
So, what are your thoughts on like, because I see nowadays there's a lot of pea protein and I believe pumpkin seed proteins that are out there. Um, what are your, do you like, I know whey protein has been out for a while, but I feel like that's fading. I feel like
Mhm.
there's other proteins now that are coming in the supplemental form. Do you have any feedback on those or, which ones might be better than others?
Yeah, I actually like to see what the athletic therapists and kinesiologists are saying about how to fuel our body for really putting on muscle. I think that's it's really important. We kind of forget about that, especially as women. We can be scared to put muscle on because we think we'll look too buff. But actually, having more muscle is going to rev up your metabolism. It's going to help to protect your skeletal muscle. Like, say, if you fall or if you get injured, you still have that muscle mass there. But with protein sources, it's interesting you mentioned pumpkin seed protein. I haven't seen a ton of that, but I do. The only nut butter that I have is actually pumpkin seed butter. And why I like pumpkin seeds, it's because I studied parasitology a little bit when I was researching my oxidative stress status paper. And that's where I learned that 80% of North Americans have parasites. So that's actually the only nut butter that I have is the pumpkin seed. But I actually can encourage more of, instead of just looking at what people saying, look at the research, but also test instead of guess which protein source is going to be more ideal for supporting you. And then it's not so much of like try this or try that, because that can get very expensive and time consuming. It's a little bit more focused and dialed in and more streamlined and succinct, because one of the things that I find can help to reduce stress and give us more peace is actually having clarity. And we can really dial in how we're eating and even living through different gut tests or different saliva DNA tests and things like that.
So yeah, so the diet is obviously very important. I want to circle back to something you've brought up, which is muscle mass and
Mm-hmm.
maintaining and growing muscle mass, because one of the things that we've talked about on our channel several times is that when you aren't working out, and like first off, there's not a time range for that. Like you really have to stay active as long and late into your life as possible. And the longer and later into life is really, in my opinion, is what extends your life because you're pushing and putting everything to work. And I had a grandmother live to 104, and she said that my great grandfather and grandmother, when they stopped being active, they just went down the tube fast. And the whole thing with the muscle mass, and everybody's different, everybody has a starting point in what is good for them and what they're capable of. But when you stop exercising your legs and your hips and you start losing muscle mass there, then the bone mass goes after. And maintaining muscle mass is also thickening up your skeletal system and thus becoming less, um, I guess, in a much less position of being injured if there's a slip or a fall. And there are some scary statistics about breaking your hip. And I know that there's a lot of ladies on these calls, maybe from 50 to 70 or 50 to 80. And this whole thing with falling and breaking your hip really stems a lot from the fact that there's not any working out going on. The muscle mass is decreasing, the bone structure is going with it. And now you're very susceptible to injury if anything does happen. Like you said, even having that muscle mass on the body to absorb some of that. But 30 or 40% of people that break their hips will never recover from that. And that is a terrifying statistic because, if it's something as easy as just getting in the gym and going on a treadmill and setting it at a nice gradual incline, maybe 10%, where you're stimulating your muscle, you're getting your cardio in, which is what you talked about. If you get a little bit more into it, you can do your high intensity interval training and really crush a good workout in a very short time frame. But I feel like getting that message across is really important because the goal is not to need technology. The goal is to be healthy, happy, and vibrant and go without it. And it's when these types of things start like getting skipped or missed that the whole system starts to break down. So with that being said, I'm going to throw that back to you to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it comes down to actually something very foundational to self-care and beautification and, purchasing different technologies or things to support you, making lifestyle tweaks to support your physical form, which will also help make you more clear. on a consciousness perspective for increasing your intuition, how you show up, making decisions in life, how you show up to yourself and others. You are worth it. I think more people need to hear that they're worth it. And one of the things that I see when I contrast the patients that I've served for many years in the clinic, but I also have been doing virtual consults for skin and rejuvenation for clients across the globe since about 2017, 2018, because patients from France, Germany, Dubai, New York, California, Toronto, all over the place were flying to see me on Vancouver Island for their rejuvenation. So I had to start to do Zoom calls before people even knew what Zoom was to provide that support and prep before coming to see me and things like that. So I do offer virtual consults, which is super fun. But the difference between people who I see are more radiant versus who are not, the ones who are not wear the busy badge of honor. So notice when you're engaging with other people and you ask someone, how are you? And they respond with, oh, I'm so busy. I just picked the kids up, dropped them off here. I did this, I did that. I'm having these people over. It's kind of like keeping up with the Joneses, the busy badge of honor. Those are the groups of individuals who I find age the worst, as well as runners. There's this phenomena in the rejuvenation space of runners having accelerated aging, and it's because they're doing prolonged cardiovascular training that is increasing their cortisol, and they're typically running without any skincare or mineral sunscreen on. There's a whole concept, discussion on sunscreens and which ones I like and which ones I don't like, but they tend to age faster. Just simply put, sprinters tend to put on more muscle and have a different build than long distance runners. So I just wanted to put that out there. And also just really take inventory of yourself. When someone asks you, how are you today? Do you respond with saying, oh, I'm so busy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, the kids are up to this, the kids are going through this? Or are you saying things like, yeah, we have this family trip planned, I've been working in the garden, the garden's coming to life, I'm making music, I'm creating art, I have this like great circle of friends and family around me, and I'm making a positive impact in some way and living my mission. Two very contrasted types of individuals. And it's no question as to which group are going to be aging better and having a higher degree of personal satisfaction. So it does come down to people feeling like they're worth it and also that they have time to do these things. So for me, I wear probably about 13 different hats in my business as a clinical trainer for other doctors and nurses speaking at different events, writing academic research papers, having a podcast, being on YouTube, offering online one-on-one consultations, expert tutorials, high-level membership support, e-commerce. There's a lot of different things that I do while also living my life's purpose and mission, which is to support myself and others in living our most beautiful, vibrant, radiant lives. Basically, how can we be the best humans possible? So with that, we need to carve out time in our day, make space, this is a feminine aspect, to receive, to make space and exercise. And the way I look at exercise is as a time for me to actually be in my body, because I get very creative and things like that in the work that I do, also highly thinking and analytical. So I'm going between the masculine and feminine. So when I'm working out, I'm very much in my body. I'm very grounded. There's only one thing I can focus on when I'm doing wind sprints on the treadmill or lifting weights that are so heavy that I fail at 8 reps. I don't have any other space in my mind at that moment to think about this or think about that. I'm in the moment and I'm looking after my body. And we neglect this. We think that sometimes we can just show up to a clinic and get a treatment done, or, pay someone for all this advice and then magically it's going to make your life better. You do need to know that you are worth it, and investing time and energy in caring for your physical body is investing in your future. It's investing in you being there for your kids, for your grandkids, for your community, for your friends, your family, living your purpose. Like your friends, your family, living your purpose. Like we can't neglect how important caring for our physical body is, because this body, this beautiful body that we've been gifted, we got two eyes and a bunch of organs, and the largest organ of the body is the skin, which is kind of cool to focus on because it tells us so much. So I think that the one of the biggest barriers that I think people have to dialing in their fitness routine and their self-care practices is this underlying notion that they're not worth it. But I'm going to tell you right now, you are worth it and you are good enough. And why not you to live your best life and experience the most out of being a human here?
And it talks, it goes back to our call that we had last week where, as you invest in yourself and you start getting that glow and you start feeling good, because that's kind of how we ended our call is, that feeling good about yourself and knowing that you're taking care of yourself, and you get that glow and you get that sense of confidence and you get that real positive self-image that really transcends into exactly how we kind of started off this call, where you can kind of see people that have a brighter aura than others. And it's those that are really bringing that into their lifestyle that start exuding that. And so it's really beautiful how that kind of cycles back into just something as simple as working out, getting into the gym, and just making that a practice or a routine and trying to get in that routine.
Yeah, and I love going to the gym. I have friends at the gym, so I'm getting a little bit of dopamine. I'm getting a little bit of oxytocin. Sure, I'm maybe raising my cortisol a little bit through doing physical exertion. However, as soon as I'm done my workout, I have some honey or some dates to then help bring that cortisol down. But I've had actually a few people come up to me while I'm doing certain things at the gym, or doing certain stretches or balancing things. And they say to me, I didn't want to disturb you because you just looked so happy and peaceful. You're doing this like really intense dancers pose stretch on a Bosu ball upside down. You're like, you just look so happy, like just so peaceful on your face. So the way that we actually carry ourselves and how our face is. So when you're focusing, are you furrowing your brows? Are you clenching your jaw? Are you pursing your lips? Are you really tensing your shoulders? One of the other things is when we get more in our body, we notice what's happening in our body when we're in different situations. So when we become more dialed in, I would also say that you're going to be in the physical, mental, energetic, and spiritual mind space and physical space to make better decisions and have more clarity when we need to actually make decisions and choices in our lives too. So you will actually be more clear the better you look after yourself. It's really simple actually. But when you're first starting to work out and it's been a while, maybe you're kind of getting back into it, you may want to, work with a personal trainer and things like that. Of course, this is not medical advice. This is educational information only. If you think you have a medical condition, you must seek the guidance of a licensed physician. There are also technologies for those of you listening that might have a shoulder injury or a knee injury or a hip injury or a back injury that can actually utilize electrical muscle stimulation. So it takes the load off the joints, but you're still getting a stimulation of your muscle fibers. But even before working out and maybe looking at EMS technology for stimulating your muscles, you need to be fueling your muscles and your physical form appropriately.
I love that. Even to take that a step further, and I love the fact that we've already had a call together. Um, we were talking about the Kirlian photography, right? And we were talking about the aura. And when you're talking about radiance, there is that field of energy that's around you that when you are fully radiant and you come into a room or come into an area, people get put into that aura or that energy field, and it can be very powerful and it can have a huge impact on the day-to-day life and conversations you have with people, because that's something that not everybody has. But when I think about somebody coming up and talking to you at the gym, I'm thinking, yeah, you're so radiant and you have that glow, and people are like, what is that secret sauce? Like, what is it that you're doing, because clearly I can see you're not just going through the motions. There's a deeper thing happening here with the gym and why you're here, and the other things you're incorporating into your lifestyle.
Yeah, the component of people coming up to me and saying, "Oh, there's just, something different about you," or "It's your aura." I mean, this is getting to it again, a deep survival need of attraction, of attractiveness, right? And I remember I was at a girlfriend's dinner. This was a few months ago. And there was a gentleman that was there at the dinner who I hadn't seen in a couple of years. And he told me afterwards, he's like, "Your aura was different." And some of the key things that had changed in those few years was I really started to cultivate the radiant side of things. And it's not just how we look with having clear skin and, reducing fine lines, wrinkles, having well-styled hair and a great outfit. It's how we're carrying ourselves. It's our word choice. It's our words per minute. It's communicating in a way that also shows nervous system regulation. It's communicating in a way that's very clear and concise and also caring and empathetic. So your aura, you do also want to be conscious of who gets to see you, who gets to be in your 6 feet Taurus field or maybe beyond, right? Because we all have this emission of a Taurus field around us. And when we look at Kirlian photography, I actually have a device in my home here that I can put my finger in a box. It measures with Kirlian photography the photon discharge, so literally light coming off my fingertips. And it's measuring the vectors and the amplitude and all these things, and it extrapolates it onto a computer program. And then we actually can get a snapshot of our human biofield. So if we're looking at maybe quantifying, because as a researcher, I kind of go dip in the rabbit hole and dip back out and report back. Not everybody can do that. Some people just get sucked into the rabbit hole. So being a researcher is a very different talent, if you will, and skill set. The aura can also be termed the biofield, which is basically kind of like this field or almost like a little bit of a shell. It's like this invisible shield. And if there are components of your physical form and also emotional and energetic and spiritual, you're going to have little gaps in your human biofield, which can actually, those gaps can show an indication of needing to support a specific body area physically. And it might make you susceptible to other things too. So obviously there's even spiritual protection and all of those types of things and energetic things that need to be cleared out too. It's a very deep topic of really what radiance entails. But at the foundation of it, it's attractiveness, right? You might actually end up feeling more comfortable, just you listening here, engaging with someone who looks put together, who doesn't smell bad, who's put a comb through their hair, who doesn't have stains on their clothes or ripped clothes or things like that. And their body language is smooth. They're not jittery. They're not doing funny things with their eyes. They're making clear eye contact. They're very present. These are all signs of somebody who's like very balanced and very emotionally mature. Their nervous system is regulated. They probably have lower levels of inflammation. They might have had past traumas, but they've evolved and matured and worked through it to be the grounded individual that they are. So consider the people who are in your life who are a pleasure to be around. They likely exhibit all those things that subconsciously you detected as being safer to be around. People who have different tendencies to want to latch on to highly empathetic, very caring, loving individuals, they will actually display certain things that it's also wise to know what those are, but not to look for those things, but to really be open to receiving connection with others who are like you, that are doing this kind of work and really being conscious of who's in your circle. And when we say need to exchange with our fields with other people, say, for example, a family dinner, right? I remember I was at having a family dinner and my aunt was sitting right next to me, very much in a high adrenaline, high cortisol state with her hormones. And that was impacting my physical form. I was noticing my heart rate was a little bit elevated. So even the hormones that people give off and the way that they move through life can impact you. So it just kind of comes down to having an awareness of how you might feel when you're in around someone's human biofield, but also around their hormones, and then how to essentially self-soothe and self-regulate. It's very interesting concept of how to be in the world and also just continue to care for your physical form as best as you possibly can.
And I think it really brings up a good point too, because those people that you associate with, if somebody is not in a good space, you can feel how that energy, when you come in contact with it, can really, like you said, it can really have a physical effect and also like a mental. And it's like they can immediately start sounding off the trigger bells, like, okay, I'm getting pushed out of my space. And you can become very conscious of that and then, become very discreet about how you monitor who's in that energy field and who you're interacting with, still being kind and compassionate, but moving on quickly and saying, hey, it's been great, I got to run. But however you do that.
Call
So
that the
Rachel,
in and
go
out
ahead.
communication strategy. Because, as empaths, we need to learn these things, how we
Yes.
can lovingly have exchanges with people, and then kind of, okay, time to move on a little bit for your own kind of self
Hmm.
protection and things like
Hmm.
that. The other
Yeah.
thing is to not like when you're learning these beautiful things to support your body with nutrition, with biohacking, with longevity, with technology, is when you're engaging with people who you can tell are really kind of like struggling, and you're picking up on that because you're feeling that. It's not your job to, you know, be the fire hose of information. They'll probably ask you, oh, you look really good. Like, what are you doing? Maybe just share one or two things that you're doing very briefly. But essentially, it's not your job to preach, but it is great to live by example. And people will notice. So it's when you're living by example, others will notice, and especially your family, especially your kids, your grandkids. So that's why the self care component is not just important for yourself, but it's also important for your legacy.
So, Rachel, I've told you that I want this to be a regular segment where we have you on, we can talk about different subjects, we can bring people on and have them ask questions. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask you some tips about skincare, because I know there are a lot of people going, oh my God, her skin is beautiful. What is she doing? And maybe you could give us a few tips on, some of the things that you do, and then maybe we can talk about a few of the technologies that you've got on your website, maybe some things that you might recommend, and then maybe wrap up this our first podcast here on the channel.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. I mean, I talk about this stuff all day long on the School of Radiance podcast as well.
Yes.
Um, for the skin, you want to focus on the foundations, and I have a free 30-minute lesson basically on kind of the biohacking lifestyle components of that at the schoolofradiance.com. Totally free. Lots of free stuff on the podcast. When it comes to caring for the largest organ of our body, we do need to use specific products. Your body soap and the same bar of soap you're using for your hair, your body, your skin may need different care, and it does. A couple of key things to do for your skin, especially the high real estate areas, including the face, the neck, the sides and back of the neck for people with shorter hair and gentlemen, the chest, the hands, the high real estate area that gets a lot of sun exposure and also a lot of watch time,
Mhm.
is to cleanse the skin twice a day. It's very important. So if you're currently splashing your skin with water because you heard on YouTube somewhere, if you have sensitive skin, don't wash twice a day. Worst advice out there. Just want to make that very clear. You need to cleanse the skin with an appropriate cleanser because most of the body's absorption of heavy metals actually comes from those heavy metals resting on the skin. Things like dust, debris, mold also can rest on the skin. And when the top of the skin, which is the stratum corneum, it's like stacked cornflakes. when debris gets trapped in that and it's not washed away properly, it can actually start to tell your skin cells to die faster. It impacts your keratinocyte stem cells. So that's why cleanliness is next to godliness. Wash your face twice a day, maybe a double cleanse in the PM if you're wearing makeup and things like that. And then looking at your eye cream and moisturizer and maybe even a serum to boost hydration or boost antioxidant protection. Look at what you're putting on your skin to feed and nourish the skin. That's why if you just put one thing on the skin, like olive oil or coconut oil, it's kind of similar to only eating that. We need different things. So we need this kind of blend of humectants and moisturizers and antioxidants and peptides to feed the skin, just like we kind of need a multivitamin for the body so that we're getting our nutrient needs met. So moisturizing AM and PM is really important. And also, I'm a huge fan of mineral-based sunscreen every day. I'm sure some of you tuning in are like, oh, I've heard sunscreen's bad for you and we need sun exposure. We do want sun exposure. However, on the high real estate areas, it's a good idea to use skincare with antioxidants, to use mineral sunscreen daily on the high real estate areas. I'm a big fan of full body sun exposure, circadian rhythm balancing with getting the sunshine in my eyes in the AM and PM so that I sleep better. It's just kind of a fact that skin cancer is real and sun damage does happen. And we have a bit of a new phenomena now with blue light and LED lights, which actually penetrate quite deep into the skin and create skin aging, essentially, and sun damage. So even if you're not living in a really sunny area, you're still inside, you're still getting exposure to blue light. So your antioxidants gobble up free radical damage. And then the mineral sunscreen creates a bit of like a screen, if you will. And then exfoliating the skin. So if you're listening and you have dry skin, you have sensitive skin, it's actually a good idea to not only cleanse, but also mechanically exfoliate off those dried, stacked cornflake layers so that your body can actually, your moisturizers can actually be absorbed a little bit better. And that's one of the key things that I find with dry skin or sensitive skin is there's something missing in the cleansing, moisturizing, sun protection, and exfoliation component. I've just seen this time and time again. In about 2 weeks, optimizing your skincare routine, you should start to see and feel more smoothness, glassiness, less redness to the skin. It can happen quite quick. That's what I've noticed with in-clinic photography over the years. And then, of course, there's some rejuvenation things that we can do as well. But you always want to start with your home care, with your lifestyle foundations, with a basic skincare routine. Then maybe start to add on some extra things like peels and retinols, and maybe doing some collagen promotion activities at home, which I have tutorials on. And then for what's left over, doing some in-clinic rejuvenation as well. But there's so much out there that are gimmicks in the rejuvenation and skincare world. So this is where I come in. Since 2011, been in the industry, teacher, researcher, practitioner, to really, it's my goal to save you time and money and to come up with a very succinct, customized plan that's going to work with your budget values and your lifestyle.
Of that. And Rachel, can you give us the web address that you've got? What is the web address, and what would be like the top three? Like, what are your top three bestsellers or your top three like starter products that you might be able to recommend for people?
Thank you, Sean. My website is theschoolofradiance.com, and you'll find everything there from that free 30-minute lesson, my skin shop, where to book a consultation, join my tutorials, and of course, the higher level Radiance Cultivation membership side of things. It's all there. My top sellers are cleanser, antioxidant serum, and moisturizer, as well as sunscreen and scrub, like really the basics. What I would suggest first is to actually just book a one-on-one with me, because through discussion, I'll be able to pick up on maybe some things you're doing in your routine that need adjusting, and also your lifestyle, that if you just buy products, you might still not be using them optimally, which is why I also have my tutorials. So ideally, to kind of get the most out of what I offer, it isn't just buying products, it's about using things properly in like a customized routine sequence. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it does need to be customized to you. So I would say pick up some products if you want, but I would also encourage booking a one-on-one and then also joining my tutorials that are happening as well. So I teach you exactly how to use your products. And since part of what you're doing, Sean, I love what you're doing. I'm a huge fan of health optimization technologies and how you're putting it all together in a medbed format. I think is great. To me, it's essentially biohacking stacking, and I get this. I do these things myself too, and they make a huge difference. So for those of you listening, I look forward to meeting you. Apply promo code USA Medbed, and that will get you 15% off of products on an order over 200. Your one-on-one session, joining tutorials, membership. I'm really excited to get to meet a number of you, because if you're here, you probably know that you're here to do some cool things in the world, get the most out of this, and you want to feel your best. And it's okay to want to look your best too. So that's kind of where I'm here to help.
I love that. Rachel, you're such a gift, and I'm so happy that I was able to meet you and be able to get you on the channel to share the radiance and to shine that light to all the people out there through channels like YouTube and everything else. But, I always say there's a part of it which is talking about it, and there's another part which is living it, right? And you can
Taking
talk
action.
yourself to death about this, that, and the other thing, but when it becomes your living reality, and you live it and you exude it, then you've now basically, processed that information into your daily life and your daily reality. And it's an intangible that you can't put your finger on, but you can feel it and see it. And when people like yourself are authentic because you are the teaching, you are the living embodiment of what people are looking to achieve. And I'm so grateful, for your time today and everything you do. I'm going to have all the links right probably below us here. I usually just put them down. So the School of Radiance, book a session with Rachel. It is time well spent. It's going to be a great way for you to start your process of rejuvenation. And with that being said, Rachel, before I sign off, is there anything else that you'd like to say today before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. I was checking my email the other day, and I received a couple emails from a few of my clients that I've served over the years through one-on-ones. They've taken the tutorials, they're using the products that I've created and recommended. The products that I recommend, some are what I've created and some are just other companies have done a great job too. And they're hearing one lady, she's in her 60s and she was at yoga, and she actually did like a little bit of makeup and did her hair kind of cute. And she said in the email that, there was a younger lady who's never spoken to me before. And she looked over at me and said, "You're looking radiant today." So what's really fun is when you're making these constructive personal development type of changes in your life, it's working when people start to gravitate towards you. You become like a magnet for other people that are kind of like you. And especially in the compliment side of things, people noticing, oh, something about your aura, your skin looks great, you look beautiful, you look radiant, and receive those compliments. Receive those compliments, because when we show up as caring for ourselves, what that does is other people will notice beauty in you, which also helps to raise their vibration, makes their life a little brighter because they see this beautiful human who's clearly caring for themselves. You get the compliment, then it gives you an opportunity to exchange with them and compliment them on something else. So you can see how this beauty thing and this attractiveness and how we carry ourselves is actually less superficial than we might think.
That What a great way to end the call today. Well, once again, Rachel, thank you so much. I'm going to end the call, but stay with me here and we'll talk. Rachel, the schoolradiance.com. Thanks again for your time today. Go to the website and we will see you on another upcoming podcast here very shortly.